Hello. Happy March. This is my favorite month. This is my birthday month, so I'm all revved up. For those of you that haven't met us yet and you're just like, who is this woman talking? Um, yeah, there it is. I'm Casey McBride. I'm SOCi Senior Director, actually not of strategic consulting anymore. I probably need to update that slide. I believe my title now is Digital Customer Success and Value Strategy, but it all means the same stuff. I have been here for 6 years. I have the privilege of managing both Mike and Kelly in their respective SEO and social media. I also run a team of data analytics. And it's all just centered around solving customer problems and helping get answers to your questions about what you need to be doing in these marketing channels. With that, I will stop talking and I will let these two introduce themselves.
I think you did a really good job. I'm Mike Snow. I'm the local SEO enablement manager, although I think our titles have changed too, haven't they? Or they're going to, or I can't.
I'm working on that. Yeah.
Okay. I know. I remember there was talk about an update, but our titles change all the time, and the SEO evangelist part is not official, but SEO never ends. So I like to add that there. I've been here about 6 years as well. Doing exactly what Casey said. We're trying to support you all and provide advice and just keep up on what is happening out there in search.
Hey everyone, I never have anything to say after you guys cover it all. Kelly Satino. I've been here for I think going on almost 5 years. And I do the same thing that Mike just mentioned, just on the social side. So, yeah, helping industry updates, strategic guidance, everything of that nature.
Cool. Oh, and just before we get into what we're doing this week, I always like to highlight this. As Casey said, we usually record our old SEO Juice webinars. The last one was a little different, which Casey noted, but our last traditional SEO Juice webinar was back in January. We talked about things that were coming up this year and trends that we were seeing. And then every other SEO Juice we've done before that is in there. So if you're interested, for customers, they're in SOCi University. If you're not a customer or you don't have access to SOCi University, you can go through the other non-customer link.
All right, so we have a really exciting docket here today. Lots of industry news because we've been gone for 2 months, kind of, right? So we're going to hit you with some of the latest and greatest of what's happening in these different channels. We're going to introduce a new acronym for maximizing your visibility in a search everywhere optimization world. We call it FACTS. We can't take credit for it. It was all our CMOs doing, but really, really great stuff there. And as always, we'll walk you through checkbox optimizations, new Google categories, attributes, and features, and then some fun caught in the wild, some things that apparently I haven't even seen yet that Mike said he'll show us all at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, kick us off.
All right. Wanted to start off. Been a lot of concern issue customers have been bringing up around reviews. I know I've seen it online. I've seen it across the board, not just at SOCi, but with other review moderation platforms. There's been an issue with numbers that are on Google for review volume are not matching what is showing up within the platform. You're not imagining things. There's not an issue necessarily with SOCi specifically. Again, this is wide. I spent a lot of time about 2 weeks ago on message boards trying to find out what's going on. I was able to find some feedback from the API team validating to another business that uses that API, essentially saying that there was an issue on that API. We've been able to get some confirmation and through articles and other sources that, and you may have seen this in the news, Google is upping their efforts to stop companies like SERP API from scraping their data. We talked about this several meetings ago. It makes sense, right? If they're taking that data and using it for their own. We saw that back as early as March last year. I think I highlighted the fact that ChatGPT was scraping Google reviews, and we were surprised by that. So Google's making efforts to stop this practice, and in doing so, may have created issues with the traditional legal valid API that we use. I know that they are trying to work that out on their end, from what we've heard. We haven't gotten an ETA, but we will keep you informed. Just know that your reviews are not disappearing. There isn't an issue with the platform, and eventually this will be resolved. We know that it's really frustrating. We know reputation is important for everyone. We talk about it all the time. It is one of the most important, if not the most important, prominence factors. So the fact that you are worried about this and that you're paying attention to this is good and right. We are, again, keeping tabs on this, and we'll let you know when that permanent fix is put into place. So, anything you want to add to that, Casey?
No, I think you did a good job summing it up, and there's a lot kind of happening here, so I don't want to overcomplicate it.
Yeah. So there is an issue. It is being looked at. We will keep you informed. Short version. Moving on.
Yeah, I'll take this one. So Adobe just announced, came out with a study like a week or two ago, and they're seeing that nearly half of US consumers are using TikTok for a search engine. So you can see 49% of consumers reported using TikTok as a search engine. So I know I'm one of them personally. I've used this example before, but if I'm traveling, especially to a city I've never been to before, Chicago, San Diego, whatever it might be, I'll go to TikTok first and look up restaurant ideas there before I would go to Google or ChatGPT or anything. That's just my personal kind of user behavior. And I do fall in that millennials bucket there that you can see on the screenshot. I think there's kind of a little bit of a misconception here that it's all just super young folks who are doing this. But Gen Z actually is a little bit older than what I think we give them credit for. And I know I say this a lot too, but they're, I think upwards of 28, they're buying houses, they're, getting married, they're having kids. So I think we need to use TikTok strategically and realize it's not just, teenagers or high schoolers who are there searching. In many cases, it's people who are 20s up to, 50. So I thought this was really interesting and also plays into a lot of what we've been talking about with search everywhere optimization.
100%.
Thanks. Moving on.
I was gonna say maybe somewhat related. Google searches per user are down nearly 20% in 2025. A lot of companies are now working through recapping what happened in 2025 from a traffic perspective. SOCi ourselves, we're actually compiling a lot of our own data, which I'm really excited to share with you guys very soon. So this was not shocking to us. That searches are down. We are also seeing search impressions down. We've been talking about this for a while. But there was new data out from SparkToro that basically just showed us that searches per desktop user is down in the year of 2025. Honestly, not a lot else to say here. I think this is very thematic of what we've been talking about for a long time. Customers are now getting their answers in answer engines, or if it is within the Google interface, they're usually getting their answer on the first try. I think that's another important kind of caveat to think about here is a lot of times, prior to this kind of AI era, you were conducting searches kind of in sections, right? And from there, you maybe would have six different iterations of your search, like, oh, I'm planning a trip to Pittsburgh, looking for restaurants in Pittsburgh. Find me information about this restaurant. Find me, whatever it is, right? Or things to do around this restaurant. Well, now suddenly you don't have to conduct those five, six searches anymore. You can have a conversation and get everything you're looking for. So I think that's kind of part of it too. Layer on all the social search things that we've been talking about and the fact that TikTok is rising, Instagram, people are using those differently. You have it 20% users down. Not shocking information.
Cool. More stats.
Yeah, so Social Insider, they do a annual study where they release Instagram usage stats. So I always say just take this with a grain of salt because they're looking at a ton of different businesses and brands, and different sizes and everything. So I do think it really depends on your actual, instance. But it is nice to have benchmarks to compare against. So some of the main takeaways here is that overall Instagram engagement is generally down. So if you're looking at your engagement and you're noticing you're down, you're not alone there. That's kind of across the board. And carousels are the most effective format. So a carousel is whenever you have multiple images or videos posted into one post, then you can swipe through and see multiple pieces of creative. So Instagram is really pushing those carousels. So they are a really effective way of driving engagement, especially saves and views. Reels are continuing to offer stable performance. Reels are served to people who don't follow you, so Reels are a great way to reach new followers. They in this study it says no longer guaranteeing incremental gains, but again, I would still focus on Reels because it is a great way to reach non-followers. And probably no surprise that static images are declining just because there are so many different other types of creatives posting that you can do with like reels and carousels. So I would say probably focus more of your time on carousels and reels, but you don't have to ignore the static images. Just keep in mind those might just bring in the lower amounts of engagement, especially if you're comparing year over year. And audience growth is also kind of going down or at least slowing down. So if you do take a look at your Instagram followers, which you should do, because Instagram did let us know recently that followers are important and followers matter. Don't be surprised if you see some slowdown in those gains or if you're seeing that you're losing some followers. That seems to also be common across the board.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah.
Moving on, Kelly talked about views on search being down. One way food and beverage customers especially can get not only more visibility, but maybe get more engagement, potentially get more engagement, especially if you have someone in discovery that's looking to save a few bucks. You really need to be taking advantage of offer and event posts. These are showing up really prominently in mobile search results. You can see here I did a search for smoothie shops. You see under Nectar Juice Bar, there's a little today. They're serving, you can read that, new nut butter bowls. It's showing up in the further search window once you go into more places, and it's showing up directly on the listing. In this instance, I believe they're using an event post because it's a new product and it's being sold over a period of time. So this is showing up very prominently. If you have an offer, if you have a new item, if you have any events coming up, take advantage of this. You're missing out on a really good advertising opportunity, essentially, if you're not taking advantage of this. We heard a rumor, post metrics are coming soon. We talked about that a little bit previously. Once we know, we'll let you know. And also, I will say, even if you're not in the food and beverage industry, I would say take advantage of these posts. I would assume they would roll out wider eventually. Again, posting in general is a big priority for Google. We're seeing it used in a lot of different places. It makes sense that this would roll out more. I would suspect it's really hard to roll this out wider if other industries aren't taking advantage. So start doing that. I know you're probably all tired of hearing me talk about that, but just had to say it once more. Casey.
Yeah. So ChatGPT uninstalls are surging following the Department of Just or what does that stand for now? Department of DoD. What does DoD stand for again?
Department of Defense.
Defense, duh. Um, deal. God, I'm so used to saying like Department of Justice and DoD. Yeah.
Mm.
Department of Defense deal. So recent data shows that US uninstalls of ChatGPT are skyrocketing 295%, following the news that it entered in significant agreements with the US government, including the Pentagon, allowing for the use of its AI models on classified networks. Um, Interesting. So, with this news, we are seeing an increase in other apps like Claude. I would imagine that other LLM companies are excited about this right now and what it could mean for their own user adoption. Um, and unless there's a lot else to add, I'm going to keep any other opinions to myself.
I would say too, despite this and despite this switchover, it's really not making, I think, a huge difference. There's a lot of articles out, and I really didn't know what to focus on for this. You can all see them out there, I think. Google is still the dominant share when it comes to AI search. When you have AI mode, when you have
Yeah.
AIOs, like why would you switch out, especially in local? I'm just, thinking about local. If you're looking for something and you're in discovery, it makes sense to start in that same space. But it is interesting that outside of that, there are these movements, is Claude going to overtake it as maybe the one that's going to, come up behind Google or not? But I think in the end, we know where things are probably going.
Well, I also, and we always go back to talking about Reimagine, where Gary Vee presented, and we had both ChatGPT there, and both companies, Google there as well, and he said it himself, like Google won't lose this race, and this is unfortunately for ChatGPT, maybe something that will continue to push the adoption of Gemini and tools that Google has in their arsenal.
Yeah, Kelly.
Yeah, so another stat or study that again take with a grain of salt, especially this one, I will say. So, Buffer completed a study analyzing more than 2 million Instagram posts, and they were trying to pinpoint optimal posting time. So, if you are on SOCi, you know that we have peak time. So, in that case, you'd want to be utilizing that feature so that your posts are going out at the time when your audience is most likely to be online. But if you want to play around with different times, especially on Instagram, here are some key takeaways. So, from this study, Buffer found that the best times to post are Thursday morning, Wednesday afternoon, and Wednesday evening. Again, it depends on the industry, the company. Like so many factors go into it. So I always say use your own data first. But if you have a new location that just wants to start testing things out, it might not hurt to at least start with these to see if you're seeing luck as well. Sounds like Wednesdays and Thursdays are the highest performing days for engagement, followed by Tuesdays. Um, it does kind of make sense too if you just think about general user behavior midweek, probably just scrolling a little bit more, maybe not as busy. Um, and in those evening hours, like 6 to 11, when people aren't working, people are more likely to be scrolling and engaging with things as well. And then Fridays and Saturdays are the worst days to post, which again makes sense too because people are busier on those days, so they might not be on their phones.
Thanks, Kelly. Okay, well, I wanted to touch base on some misinformation that has been called out to us from some customers and some prospects. There are some companies out there that are sending kind of these FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt kind of emails out saying that responding to reviews using AI is against Google policy in some way and could get it is what is getting their reviews removed in some way or may cause those answers to get flagged. We talked with our friends at Google, and I did my own research online, and this is absolutely not the case. I mean, Google is developing their own response tools using AI. They're already doing it. You can create your own description using AI, using Google tools. You can create posts. So doing this is completely safe, permissible, and compliant. Google is rewarding quality, not the author. They really want quality responses. I spent my first week or two here at SOCi responding to reviews for a customer, and it is hard to come up with new ways to respond to reviews. And I know that AI makes it a lot easier to do because there's a lot more options that it has that it can think of. And the policy itself, I looked at Google policy, and it really says that tools and automation is about user consent. So if we were responding or setting up AI tools without letting our customers know we were doing that, that would be a problem. That would technically be against policy. So really, I don't need to belabor this one, but just letting you know and assuring you if you get these kind of emails, if you see this kind of messaging out there, it is misinformation. It is not true. AI is useful as long as it is quality, right? As long as it is helping that user.
I
Yeah.
absolutely. And the only other thing I'll say on this again, not to keep it going too long, but Google has talked about in just even traditional search how it values AI content, AI generated content. It doesn't see just everything AI generated as some form of slop. If it is valuable to the end user, Google has basically said that it doesn't matter how it was generated in the first place. So again, don't worry about this one.
So this is really exciting. You might have noticed it on your own TikTok feed if you are a TikTok user, but they have rolled out what is called a localized content tab. So this means that if you are, set in a certain region, like myself, I'm in Pittsburgh. If I click on that local tab, like on the screenshot on the right, it will show posts from people who are also in Pittsburgh. So these could be influencers, businesses, your next door neighbor. It doesn't have to be people who have a following or are a business. So this presents a lot of opportunity for local businesses to be seen more. Because now it doesn't really matter how much engagement your post gets, you have a great opportunity to appear in this local tab. So if you're not using TikTok or you're kind of worried about is it worth it, it definitely is worth it. And I think this is a great sign that other social networks are seeing the value in local social, and they probably are going to start doing something similar like this local tab.
Thanks, Kelly. Casey.
I do want to talk about this because this is a fun topic, but we got a really good question that I want to answer it live.
Oh, yeah.
I have some thoughts. And Nathan asked, do you guys think that keywords and review responses have an impact on SEO? As I think there maybe is a typo here. I've heard it's a good practice to do, but I've also heard that it has zero SEO benefit. For example, restating the service provided, etc., things like that. Um, well, from a traditional SEO perspective, if we're talking about what can impact your visibility in, Google Maps and Google search, things like that, no, the actual text that is in your review response, I would say is not traditionally seen as something that is a ranking factor. However, there's been some interesting things that we've been observing. First and foremost, we have seen that Google is creating, right, AI summaries of your business or using AI to summarize experiences, things like that, what to expect at certain locations. I would think that it is fair to assume that Google is looking at and understanding that content. Inversely, it has been very evident in a lot of examples and a lot of behaviors that folks on the SOCi side are taking in tools like ChatGPT or other LLMs, where it does look like LLMs are referencing review response content, meaning that they'll use it for contextual relevancy. We've seen situations where it may recommend a business and then talk about what people are saying about that business, and then also talk about, well, this is how the business responds to what people are saying about that business. Because it's doing that, I think it's really safe to infer that LLMs are definitely looking at that content. So I guess where I kind of stand on all of this, and Mike, I'd love to hear your thoughts, are be as contextual as possible. Think about your review responses in a very nice and detailed way, making recommendations, restating things. Um, is it maybe going to drastically improve your overall ranking in Google search? Maybe not, but is it going to hurt you? No. And might it help you? Yeah. So go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's even though Google may be reading it because I know it's responses are going through moderation now. We talked about that previously. We know they said that responding is a factor. It doesn't mean it's being used in the algorithm. We can go back to the service area thing, and I think it was Claudia Tomino looking in, like they take that data, it's in the Google API, but it might not be used as a ranking signal, right? So even though Google may be looking at it, I don't know that there's a lot of evidence. Google, I think, is smart enough to know when things like that customers can get very spammy in their or businesses can get very spammy in their response. So I would say always be helpful in your response. Don't make it an opportunity to try and optimize. Really just be honest and provide really good feedback to your customer, I guess.
Totally. And speaking of spam, so there was a test that confirmed that LLMs do in fact read schema markup. In this test, essentially, a user created a fake business, stood it up, did not put the address of this business in any copy, anything on page, but did put it in a HTML formatted schema, if you want to call it that. So there's kind of like two variables here, right? So there's the situation where it wanted to understand, is the LLM reading and analyzing the on-page content? And is it essentially looking at what would be inferred as like schema markup? But then they also added an extra weird layer here where they didn't format the schema correctly at all. In fact, it was all just made up words. It's formatted to kind of look like schema markup. And, basically just seeing if LLMs could still make sense of it. The answer was yes and yes. So LLMs pulled in, ChatGPT pulled in the address from the backend schema-ish markup, and still understood the content within, despite it not being a perfectly well-structured, well-formatted schema markup. To me, these are really interesting findings. First and foremost, it's like, could I just put anything back there I wanted to? And LLMs are going to read and analyze it. It seems like a pretty big open door to some keyword stuffing. I was telling Mike before this call that it reminds me of back in the day when you could hide copy on pages using like white colored text and keyword stuffing the heck out of websites. And I think where I'm kind of going with this though is I'm not necessarily encouraging you to do that, to just totally stuff your HTML on your website with words. It may work in the short term because other black hat strategies like that also worked in the short term. But the reality is that these tools are built for humans, human consumption, human usage, human adoption, and it's going to catch on eventually. It's going to want to trust this content to make sure that anything that it is reading and analyzing is kind of above board and is what people actually want to see, and that you're not trying to cheat the system. So even though LLMs today might make it a lot easier for you to cheat the system because they are relatively brand new, it'll catch up. But yeah, I thought this was an interesting one for me. So I guess note for you guys, don't neglect schema. I think schema markup's important. If you got some typos, it's probably still fine. And yeah, I mean, expand on it. See what other details you can add about your business on the back end, that are, within reason. Don't go crazy.
Yeah. And don't do it to break your regular schema because Google
Yes.
has said they like it, they want it. Um, Kelly.
Yeah, I'll go over this quickly. So, um, LinkedIn is something that trying to talk a little bit more about. I know it's not everyone's top used social channel, but for a lot of like B2B industry members, it definitely is. So, the takeaway here is really that brands that invest in LinkedIn thought leadership gain an advantage in both human and AI led discovery. AI systems are favoring expert, fresh conversational content that happens on LinkedIn. So, LinkedIn posts and articles provide really strong authority, recency, credibility signals, all things we're going to be going over in a little bit. And discovery does happen a lot on LinkedIn before someone even goes onto a website. So, really, what's changing is just buyer discovery is shifting from search clicks to AI generated answers, and LinkedIn is being surfaced a lot more than ever. So, AI likes LinkedIn, the LLMs like LinkedIn. So it's something that if you were thinking about starting to use, or maybe you haven't used it in a while, I would recommend you try to start posting on there a little bit more.
It was funny. I was trying to find something using ChatGPT around SEO, and I found myself cited on LinkedIn. So it is
Oh,
definitely sources. I think this is the last one for industry updates. Really quick, just wanted to give a heads up for customers, especially property customers that are using products for floor plans or want to use for products for floor plans. We've gotten some feedback and we've done some research ourselves that Google may be disallowing this. This really isn't technically um, per policy. And I did some research on the support page. It really says if you have a local store which sells physical goods, this is suitable. I know not just property, but I know a lot of service industries are using this as well. Just wanted to give you a heads up that this may go away. That this is something, so I don't really have much more information than that, but I don't see that it's being enforced right now, but it may soon. And so wanted to give you a heads up for when that happens, that we know sort of that it was inevitable. More information as we know more. So moving on to our big feature here, Casey.
Yeah. So, if you are all on this webinar, there's a very high probability that you are all familiar with the concept of EEAT, introduced in 2014, which was, what is it? Experience, expertise, authority,
Authority.
and trust. Can't believe I was even questioning myself there, but you know why is because we are moving on and up. EEAT and a lot of what we've been talking about for God, over 10 years, 12 years, things like that, um, have really centered around traditional SEO and the way that we think about website signals and things for showing up in traditional algorithms and traditional search. We have now been talking for quite a while about the reality that it is a cross-functional ecosystem, that there are so many places now that you need to appear, that you need to think about showing up, and they all interact with each other in this fun ecosystem. And your approach needs to differ a bit as well. And we're learning a lot more now about how these different channels interact with each other, and then how they all level up to showing up in AI search and conversational search, and GEO, I don't care what you call it, LMEO, whatever. Um, and with that, we would like to introduce the concept of facts. Um, where this is kind of stemming from, if you want to jump to the next slide, like I was saying, it's not just about traditional search anymore. It's not just people conducting, search after search after search in a Google search bar. And even within that Google search bar ecosystem, like we were saying earlier, it's beyond that. It's not traditional search engine results anymore. It's AI summaries. It's AI summaries within AI summaries and business listings, and it's important to consider. And then you also now you conduct a search and you see social profiles and you see Instagram posts. Go ahead, Kel. I'm getting ahead of myself, but you can go ahead.
Sure. So, just like you've showed before, what Casey was starting to say, like, here's an example of how the social platforms are shifting their insights and metrics, knowing how important search is to the consumer experience. So, like we keep saying, social content doesn't just live on the social platforms anymore. It actually now shows up in traditional search results too. And what's cool is that some social networks like Instagram and TikTok are actually showing you the percentage of your video views that came from each, traffic source. So just to be super clear, these insights are coming from Instagram itself, TikTok itself. Whenever you search from within those platforms, you can see how many people or the percentage people who landed on your post from search. In TikTok's case, you can see what exactly they were searching for as well. So, really interesting shift that social networks are now showing us. It would be amazing if one day we can see the traffic to social posts from Google and those type of search engines. So hopefully we get there, but at least it's a start here.
Totally. And something else to think about, pivoting back to kind of how people are searching and what's kind of inducing a lot of this is people are expecting conversational search now. Gone are the days where traditional search you could just get away with best drip coffee maker or best coffee near me or whatever you're searching for, right? Like the consumer expectation is that I should be able to just tell you all the details about who I am, what I want, what I'm looking for. And you should be able to deliver me a response. And that's the difference between 4 words and 23 words on average in LLM search. So how do we optimize around that additional context? And then outside of that, we found recently, we talked about this actually in February, AI recommendations at the local level are 30 times more difficult than inclusion in the traditional Google 3-pack, meaning that it is 30 times harder to show up in an LLM than it is for you to show up in the 3-pack. And we all know how hard it is sometimes to show up in the 3-pack. So it's really intimidating. And some ways to get there. In this example, the average star rating of a brand selected by ChatGPT is 4.3 stars, which is higher than the typical threshold for a Google or a Yelp and what kind of benchmarks we see there. So there is no page two. It's no longer really even about like a top five. It's like a top three, maybe even a top one in some conversational types of search. So you're either recommended or you are completely invisible. So what do you do about it?
So this is where we come to our new acronym. And I know we're talking about, oh, there's all these acronyms coming out. This really isn't about thinking about a new search acronym. This is about thinking about the factors that are important for all search. So we come up with facts, and it stands for freshness. So how current and active and updated your pages and your content are, some authority, your proven leadership in your category, consistency, data consistency is a huge factor. Trust, again, reviews, brand sentiment, now treated more as a gate and versus a ranking factor. And then semantic relevance. We've been talking about this a lot, about creating content that answers customer questions, that isn't just chasing keywords. So we're going to take a little time and talk about each of these, some a little more than others. And we'll start off with freshness. We've been highlighting a lot of articles in the industry updates about LLMs wanting fresh content. We highlighted a study from Ahrefs, I think in January, I think in our last one, about freshness being a relevant signal. About 90% of all pages with freshness data, or at least 90% of pages that were surfaced last year was updated in 2025. Or it's worded weird. So freshness is a factor. It makes sense, right? LLMs, Google, social, they're trying to find you the most fresh, up-to-date information about the thing you're looking for. So this is our factor. Freshness is a proxy for operational validity. Algorithms prioritize real-time data to avoid sending users to closed or dormant businesses. A static profile looks like a dead entity, right? If LLMs are all about certainty, they want to provide a really good answer and be helpful. And if they're not sure if someone's open because their data is old, they might not update them. Also, I've seen a lot of evidence Google after about 6 months. If no one's messing with your profile, if you're not doing anything, you may get deranked. So how do you optimize for freshness? On Google Business Profile, post regular images, respond to every review and respond to it quickly, and update your business description seasonally to prove that you're open for business today. I don't know how many business descriptions have been sitting for years and years without updating. This is just a really easy thing to do. I know, Casey, you used to do this at Dick's Sporting Goods all the time, right? When you worked there, you would make sure to update
Really, I
things.
was on a quarterly cadence, and with if you think about a business like Dick's Sporting Goods, it is highly seasonal. I mean, there's sports at all different points of the year, but yeah, it's so easy to do. Just sprinkle a little newness in there. And with that, your local landing pages. This is definitely something that, at a minimum, I would say quarterly. Um, Publish regular updates, events, deals, blog posts, anything that you can do to create a signal that you are participating in this page, that you are keeping it fresh, that you're keeping it updated. Make sure that it's worthy of being crawled and checked again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you want to make sure you're posting across all your social handles. We say at least weekly. It should definitely be more than that, but at a minimum, at least just have an account set up for channels that you don't have a posting strategy for yet. And then hopefully you can get to the posting strategy once they're created, but definitely at least keep the lights on again at a minimum.
Yeah, I like this question from John. In terms of freshness, does a review response weigh the same as something like posting pictures or updating hours? I think updating hours is number one. Obviously, you want to make sure people know when you're open, and that's good. Pictures are real. I like pictures because it lets people know what's going on. I've noticed, and I'll talk about it. It's something I've been putting off, but I want to talk about at some point. Is Google will highlight the pictures that are most seasonally relevant too. Like I don't know if you've noticed as you get into the holidays, there are a lot more Christmas decoration photos. Like if you're looking at a department store, like all these things show freshness. And if it takes a day, I think responding right away is more about the customer as well. Like if you don't respond the same day and you respond 2 days later, it's not a big deal about freshness, but it could be about the customer. So hope that answered that question. But I would say bottom line is don't just be available, be engaging. Show people that you're there, that for them, that you're ready to engage with them. Authority. So authority's not just an important part of EEAT, it's key for visibility in LLMs. It's a factor more important than ever when it comes to LLMs. We talked a little bit about the ranking factors survey back in November, and it was the first time AI was on there. And a lot of those top factors were about authority, whether that's of the page or the links back to them or whatever that is. It is a strong signal. In the age of AI, saying you're an expert really just isn't enough. You need to demonstrate it. And so they're looking for that visual evidence that validates that you are an authority in doing what it is you claim. Like, are you showing those right things? So from a Google Business Profile perspective, that means using that feed GBP is not just, for credentials, not just coupons, let's say. So the posts that you're putting out there, post photos of awards, team certifications, completed projects, right? If you're a service area business and you do projects on site, post pictures of that, right? Put posts up there. Do add descriptions of the work involved. This feeds data that categorizes you as an expert and not just a merchant, right?
Yeah, I actually have a really good example of this. I know we're trying to stay on track here, but I have a cleaning service that comes to my house and they are just starting their new business. It's a mom and daughter. They just started their own small business cleaning houses. And one of the first things she asked me was, would it be okay if we posted photos of like before and after or just some of our detailed close-up shots of like how we clean your house? And I just smiled because she doesn't know what industry I work in, but I was like, please do. I'm like, please. I said, that would be fantastic. I think that's a great idea for your business. But yeah, that's great advice, especially for service area businesses, Mike. Local landing pages. Don't just list your features, publish us versus them content. My God, we are seeing that everywhere, especially like in the B2B space. We're really seeing a lot of content comparison. LLMs eat that up. So definitely good content. Um, Sorry, I'm falling off of your notes here, Mike. Yeah, highlight awards and trusted partners. I think that's a really good space too. Any space where you can really kind of advocate for yourself and write about like recognition that you've received or why you are the most credible for this specific topic. Super great.
And like Casey's example of posting on social, yeah, the process is great. Behind the scenes work, there's a whole kind of concept of oddly satisfying that people love to see on social. Like, I know we work with someone who does like carpet cleaning, and their best posts are the ones that are in that, oddly satisfying category of like seeing the carpets being cleaned and the before and after. And, so the behind the scenes content is really engaging, especially at the local level.
So bottom line, don't just state what you do, show why you're the best at it, right? You have the best evidence on hand. Take advantage of that, capture it, put it out there. Consistency. I won't spend much time here. This is something that we've always has always been a thing for search, right? Consistency acts as a critical validation signal. When data matches, it builds a confidence score necessary to rank you. So you should be, as always, ensure that your name, your business contact information is consistent across all structured data sources. I would say it's even more important now with LLMs. I've seen instances, and I highly recommend you do this. If you search in an LLM for your own industry and you're not coming up, ask why. Ask a follow-up question. It'll generally tell you. I started doing this, and a lot of the times when a business isn't coming up, even though it's well rated, even if they have a really good SEO strategy on page, a lot of time it's about consistency. Hey, we noticed over here these hours aren't right, or reviews are higher here, lower there. There's something else going on. The naming isn't right across listings, right? Some people like to add geo modifiers. Some platforms don't let you, so now there's an inconsistency across those platforms. So this is just a really important thing to make sure you're continuing to do, right? Strive for consistency, and reputation is another piece of this, striving for consistency of reputation. I don't
Totally.
know, Kelly, Casey, you want to add anything here? I think this one's pretty
Yeah.
It's
self-explanatory.
pretty self-explanatory. I just definitely want to like highlight that source of truth that you have there for
Yes.
local landing pages. I think it's really important that everybody starts thinking about their local landing pages as like their holy grail of primary citation information. If you have really good local landing pages that are well detailed, that say who you are, what you do, give examples, like really just stay accurate, that helps kind of inform a lot of other areas as well.
Yeah. And Samantha, that is a really good question about how do you balance the need for consistency with the use of tracking numbers that include sources, leads. Very good question, and I'm not sure yet, to be honest. That's something we need to look at a little more. It makes sense that that's the way you track, and I think traditional search engines understand a lot about that. Google understands that, but I don't know that LLMs are completely understanding that yet. So it's something
Yeah,
to look
I
at.
think we've gotten that question a couple times in the past, and I'm with you, Mike. I don't really know. I think it's one of those things where it's like, ugh, I wish you could avoid it. But I get why you have to do it.
And maybe it's something, again, in the schema. Maybe it's a way to use that. Like, here are tracking numbers here are all of our numbers. Maybe that's a way to do it.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
something, good question. Thank you for asking it. Um, Moving on to trust, reputation obviously always been a factor. As Casey mentioned earlier, it's even more important in the world of LLMs. We say that 4.3 is the average, and that's or 4.4 maybe is what we found, but it's an average across a bunch of industries. It could change depending on industry. But one of the things you need to remember is we talk about how in Google, if you say, the best, whatever that is, Google will filter out 4.0 and above. In a lot of searches in LLMs, oh, did I not put this in here? I had another, I think it might be after this. Sorry, wrong way. Here it is. I just filtered the wrong way. If you'll notice, I did a barbershop search. I did a groomer search. I did a donut shop search. I didn't ask for best. I didn't ask for any of that. I just asked for those things. And Gemini automatically gave me top rated, right? So it is very limiting if you're not top rated in your area. Something I do want to look at a little more of, as I notice, is top rated and local favorites are iconic. I think there's a way where there's this balance of highlighting local favorites, but also someone that's really highly rated. And so I think that rating is how, again, you get around that local piece. And that's something we can talk about more going forward. But trust is a risk assessment, right? It's looking Google, Gemini, GPT, they're looking for signals of spam, poor user experience, fraud, looking for a safe, trustworthy business. And so again, focus on steady stream of reviews, campaigns, on pages, just kind of speed this through a little bit to semantic relevance. Just traditional things that Google has always said, like a really well optimized, well structured, helpful page is going to show signs of trust, right? And then in the social space, just having that engaging content that people engage with. So people aren't just looking for options, they want validation, right? And I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. Trust has been a long-term signal. What I really want to get to is the semantic relevance. And I think one of the highlights here that we want to get to, because I know we'll probably speed through a little bit of the rest of this, is that a lot of this, the A, C, and the T are pretty much have always been there, right? The freshness has really always been there, and the semantic relevance we're going to talk about has always been there. But freshness and semantic relevance have always been kind of left to the side when traditional search allowed you to kind of game the system in different ways. It is not, it, LLMs don't allow for this as much. You need to pay attention to this stuff. And so semantic relevance, I think, is kind of the key here, right? We can come up with fresh content, but that content also needs to be semantically relevant. When users are turning to AI assistants, they're looking for solutions to problems, right? So it's not just about keyword matching or keyword stuffing. You need to provide the answer to a solution. And here's a really basic one, right? Low relevance description would be this bank offers a range of things that you would expect at a bank, essentially. But a high relevance one goes a little further. It says small business, it says SBA loans, it says experience working with people. So that semantic relevance is really important when someone is trying to solve a problem. So semantically relevant content addresses a deeper meaning, context, and intent behind a user's query rather than just matching those specific keywords. So for instance, with a Google business profile, you need to show your business in action with the local market, replace stock photos with real imagery, a physical storefront offering staff and services. You want to show what it is you're doing and how it's relevant to whatever that customer is. Stock photos or no photos isn't doing any of that work. You're not having posts, not having product. It's not doing any of that. Landing pages. Casey, you want to take this?
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to get to some of these Q&As that you
Oh,
guys.
you know what? Do that. I'll keep going here.
Oh, no, it's
With,
fine.
with local landing pages, it really is don't just build a page for your solution, right? Don't just say, I'm a lawyer, I'm a groomer, I'm a donut shop, right? You need to solve for the problem. If you want to rank, you have to earn the right to sell that answer. So for instance, one of the things you should really be doing is asking yourself, what is it? Why would a customer go and use an LLM in discovery that would lead them to using my business, and start there? Social. I'll let Kelly take this.
Sorry, yeah, I was trying to also go back and forth on some of these questions. So yeah, basically you just want to create content that validates the user's experience. So it's again consumer behavior. Whenever you see that your own experience is portrayed on social, it helps you actually connect with that brand and kind of put that specific life event into context. So I think obviously you follow brands that you can relate to, and you see your own experience being portrayed on their page. So if it's if I'm following a smoothie brand and they're showing like their different menu items, or they're showing their drive-through experience, like things that I, as a consumer of that brand, experience myself, I'm more likely to connect with it, especially at that local level. So that semantic relevance is really important for local search, especially for social too.
And even in traditional search, Google tries to highlight relevant, semantically relevant social posts when they have that, what people are
Yeah.
talking about. They try and match it to what you're looking for. So it's, again, this is why we're saying we talk a lot about LLMs because people want to know about LLMs, but this is for everything, right? This is not, this
Yep.
is search everywhere. And so you really need to stop chasing keywords and start chasing the problems. So some tips for creating these semantically relevant content: identify the trigger event, right? Why are people going into discovery on an LLM, right? You don't just list auto insurance, write about buying a car, adding a teen driver, or handling an accident, right? Use natural language, speak how you would speak to someone in your office. I wouldn't, you wouldn't say best auto insurance near me. You would have a conversation. So don't necessarily do that. Show why you're the best, right? That's where that benchmarking comes in and comparing yourself to others. It's not enough to say it, it's enough to show it. And then answer that next question. If you're writing about teen drivers, also include student discounts. Like AI expects to have that train of thought, right? That follow, something that I don't have right now, apparently. So I want to give you an example of a semantically relevant post, let's say. And this is something, let's say, in the insurance industry. It's taking a life event like moving and taking the things that you might do. Oh, when you move to a new place, you're getting takeout. You might be getting a pizza, right? So you're comparing pizza boxes with unpacking boxes, and then it talks about the reality. The next question I always get is, now that I own a house, is my engagement ring expensive, tech covered too? This is a really clever way of keyword stuffing, in a way, like anticipating what kind of questions people may be asking LLMs, right? And then you answer that question, and then you kind of create a next step for a lead. So really, ultimately, again, just for time, because I know we're almost out, the days of gaming the algorithm are coming to an end. You really need to think about your search optimizations a little differently. That's why we're introducing facts. It's not like we're trying to create something new that's all us, but we're trying to help you in really simple terms think about this. When you're doing something, when you're creating content, you can think, is it fresh? Is it authoritative? Am I being consistent? Is it trustworthy? Are people gonna like this? Are they gonna connect with it? And is it semantically relevant to what people are looking for? You can put anything you do through these measures to make sure that you're hitting all these points as you're optimizing. So keep it fresh, share your knowledge, be consistent, prove you're the right choice, stop chasing keywords, and be the best answer. Kelly, Casey,
Mic
anything you want to add
drop.
to that?
Nope. Mic drop.
All right.
Here for it.
Um, Couple quick things before you jump off. One, if you are an energy customer, gas stations, hydrogen station was just added as a category. So this is new. If you have one of these, you can add this to your profile as a category. Something we just saw that was added today, and if Brad, if you're still on the line, we'll be asking you about this tomorrow. They It was just noticed today that there are these new place attribute features on listings that aren't just text message or WhatsApp, but Facebook Messenger, Kakao Talk, and Line. Kakao Talk is a South Korean app that's huge there apparently, and Line is very popular in Asia. It is showing up in our dashboard at the very bottom, a little weird. It's coming in dynamically. As we get more information about this, we'll let you know. It hasn't replaced adding the links for WhatsApp and SMS text, and there hasn't been any new lines added for these other ones, so we're not sure what this means quite yet. And then lastly, just kind of patting ourselves on the back a little bit. I'm sorry. I feel like I have to do this from time to time. I have been saying, Casey's been saying, we've been talking about for a long time that we were a little skeptical of these LLMS text files. In fact, even Google has been saying that they don't read these things. But after almost a year, the articles are starting to come out. Medium, Search Engine Roundtable, like these are pretty much dud. No one's reading them. No one's using them. They haven't really become anything. So just thought that was really interesting. And lastly, we've also been saying things like you can call the new version of SEO whatever you want, but it still is SEO ultimately. This idea of GEO, I've always said the idea of creating new acronyms is to sell products. Well, it turns out that's true. There was a LinkedIn post we found last week. I think Lily Ray highlighted it a little more, which is what I have this link to, but it was to a post somewhere on a message board where someone highlighted something they were sent, basically asking them to basically, hey, we'll pay you to say SEO is dead, long live GEO, essentially. And so, yeah, apparently they're not doing very well, and they're paying people to validate their products, essentially, influencers out there. So I thought that was interesting. Anything you want to add, Kelly, Casey?
No, just this isn't surprising.
Um, Thank you. We managed to stop a few minutes early. We can.
Good. And I actually think we got hopefully to everybody's questions. I know there's some, I think there were some questions I was trying to help with around LLMs finding schema markup. Bethany, if you are a current customer, please reach out to your CSM. They can follow up with us. I can try to help get through some of those specific details. You guys all asked really great questions today. Hope we were helpful. I hope today was helpful. And if not, there is always next month. But also, if you are a SOCi customer, your CSMs know exactly where to find us. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We are always here to help. There's also the SOCi Central, which I'm really happy that there is a slide on this. I almost forgot. Um, please log into SOCi Central, engage there, ask your questions there. We are all on, well, definitely Mike and Kelly are on SOCi Central, and they are posting constantly. We are there to help answer your questions. You can also crowdsource answers to a lot of your questions. You can learn a lot from your peers. This community has been fantastic for trying to help you guys, kind of learn from each other and really just make us all better and improve our overall marketing approaches and strategies and how to maximize your use of Soci.
Yeah, and Kelly and I tend to post articles throughout the month. So a lot of those industry updates you see at the beginning, we're posting longer versions of those on Soci Central as that news breaks. So, all right.
Awesome. And I think, is that the last slide? All right.
That is it.
That we will let you all go. Thank you so much for joining us this month. We will see you again in April. Bring your friends. Can't wait to see you there.
Cheers. Thank you all.